All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick, recording on Monday afternoon in the bottom of the first between the Braves and my beloved New York Mets on the final day of the season. As we're recording, Tyler McGill hasn't blown it yet. We are going to talk today about the AFC Champion market in the NFL after it was not upended, but changed a little bit by the Sunday night result between the Ravens and the Bills. And then we're going to talk about Coach of the Year and Offensive Rookie of the Year. But let's start with the AFC. Drew, the Chiefs static in the market, getting the win, but losing Rashee Rice. The Bills drift from 4-1 to 5-1. The Ravens, the big mover from 7-1 to plus 450. The Jets, the big faller from 8-1 to 12-1. Where I would start with this is kind of independent of those odds. Just who do you think is the best team in the AFC right now?
Well, I think it's the Bills, but surely there was a lot on display last night about some systematic issues with game states that are not favorable for them. The fact that they had that little, that suspect of an effort in a primetime game on the road is a little bit concerning as far as getting road wins in the playoffs. But, I think Josh Allen is still playing the best quarterback of anyone going right now. And, Josh Allen or Jayden Daniels. They're Jayden Daniels, one of the two. I think the Bills, to me at least, look like a team that I have the least amount of questions in terms of health. I have a little bit of confidence and track record that this coaching staff is going to continue to coach up the young players, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. There's to me at least the eye test and the numbers still support what Josh Allen is doing is real. So light opinion on the Bills for me. And I know that maybe flies in the face of the fact that the Chiefs are still undefeated and the Chiefs have played their toughest games of the season, for the most part, are now in the books. They're done playing the Ravens. They're not going to play the Bengals again. They've gotten their most difficult road divisional game out of the way against the Chargers, and the path is pretty clear for the Chiefs to take the 1 seed and force the playoffs through Arrowhead again. And I think that's kind of the key, at least as far as pricing this market. And the absence of Rashee Rice certainly will be felt, but I think you have to take a little bit of positives away from the game yesterday about the Travis Kelce just showing that he's not washed. And just some of the other ancillary pieces and the offensive lines coming together a little bit. And I think the defense for the Chiefs still remains a huge problem for everyone in the AFC. So, you combine Pat Mahomes with a really good defense. And I think, Chiefs are rightfully the favorites in this market as we currently look at the standings and as you look at the rest of their schedule. I would make the Bills still the top power rated team, even in spite of getting their lunch fed to them last night by the Ravens.
Okay. Chiefs do still have to play at San Francisco, at Buffalo, and then home to Houston later in the season. But outside of that, it's pretty comfortable. And they do have effectively a 2.5 game lead on Baltimore, given that they have the tie break there. With the Bills, how worried are you about their defense after Baltimore kind of carved them up? I understand it's a tough matchup, but where in the league do you think this Bills defense will end up ranking at the end of the season?
I would say pretty high confidence they'll end up top 10 in DVOA and DPA per play allowed. I think the pass defense in particular has a lot of bright spots. I think the cornerback room is one of the best across the league. And I think they have an opportunity to get healthier and better at the middle. Kind of the linebacker level is really where your eyebrows kind of raise. In the absence of Milano, was this going to be a big deal? And surely would have liked to see a little bit better tackling, a little bit better effort last night as they were out physical pretty substantially by a Ravens team that, really played with a lot more purpose. And I guess I'm not. It's tough to say worried about the Bills defense, but I definitely was surprised with how soft they played yesterday.
Indeed. Looking at long shots in this market, Is there anyone who leaps out to you after we get past, say, the if you want to call the Bengals a long shot at 14-1, I guess you can do that. But is there anyone further down the board, or you think this is pretty concentrated to the top 4 teams?
Well, everybody down the board is flawed. They're either one half of the team has huge questions that are very suspect, or the quarterback himself is not playing well enough to be considered. The Bengals, I do think, are they're scary. Everybody should be kind of aware of the Bengals, just because that offense does look like it is for real. And as long as Joe Burrow is healthy and he is now operating with a full set of weapons, they're going to be able to score into the 30s pretty much every week. Just a matter of, will their defense ever resemble anything better than the 30th best in the NFL? Amazing that there were a combined 80 dropbacks in that Panthers-Bengals game yesterday and not a single sack. And it didn't even really feel like there was a threat of a pass rush from either team. And that's a problem for this Bengals squad because, they're going to have a tough time getting out the field against elite quarterbacks for sure. I look at the AFC South as the biggest head scratcher right now. Obviously, I don't think you can hold the Titans up as a realistic contender. And even though I do think there are some bright spots on that roster, the Jags feel like a hair of a buy low right now, although who knows what's going on with the kind of beleaguered head coaching situation there. The Jags at least have, that they have more upside than their 0-4 record would currently suggest, and then the alarm bells are still ringing as loud as you could possibly hear them for this Houston Texans team. 3-1, hard fought. CJ Stroud is still a top 10 guy. They have elite weapons, but a lot of problems with the way that offense is structured. A lot of this, just systematically, Slowick is not kind of evolving and continuing to improve with more weapons to work with in the passing game, which is a problem. And then, the defense also similarly had some pretty glaring issues these last 2 weeks. So I have some kind of path or kind of angle into betting against this Texans team, just because their schedule is pretty difficult still coming up, and I'm not 100% buying into what we're seeing there, but boy, is it tough to make a case for anybody else in the AFC South right now.
Indeed. We should get a much better idea about the Texans after they play Buffalo this coming week. That game is pick at the moment, and we'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. All right, it's an interconference showdown Sunday night in Week 5. Catch Dak Prescott and the Cowboys take on TJ Watt and the vaunted Steelers defense in Pittsburgh. Coverage kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. All right, Coach of the Year, one of the more abstract markets, and thus often presents some vulnerabilities. Kevin O'Connell is the favorite, I think rightfully so, at plus 200. Mike McDonald is plus 650. Dan Quinn is 7-1. That is your tier 1. Jim Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Todd Bowles, Dennis Allen, Sean Payton are the next lot after that. Does anyone leap off the board to you as being a bet at current price?
I'm going to probably go down swinging all season with this opinion, but I'm not seeing Kevin O'Connell as fair price right now. I think he's bet against at price, which means we need to find the right lottery tickets here and see if we can run them in. It is extremely tough to go wire to wire in this market. Wins that happen in the first quarter of the season tend to matter the least when you're kind of surveying the landscape of the Coach of the Year in the month of December. It's I don't know that a big upset over the Niners week 2 is going to be in the front of people's minds as they're trying to, assign credit here. So if the Vikings are like, if the path for O'Connell, in my opinion, now that we've sort of re-anchored our expectation and our understanding of this team, I think they're going to need to get to 12 wins for him to be considered. And so for those reasons, I can't see 2-1 being realistic and fair price. And I think just in general, the next tier of candidates has guys that I'm more inclined to buy into. McDonald, Quinn, and Tomlin would be my first 3 choices. I don't think Bowles or Allen realistically is going to have enough success in an NFC South that people don't really believe in to get assigned credit at the end of the day. And I think Jim Harbaugh is laughable at 14-1, considering the Chargers are probably a 6 or 7 win team. So yeah, I think this is an opportunity to get a bet in on a tier 2 candidate, and I'm curious what your opinion is in terms of who has the path that you're the most excited about.
What do you think would need to happen for Sean Payton to win Coach of the Year? He's 20-1.
I mean, realistically, I don't know that Bo Nix is going to win more than 5 games, so he's going to have to win more than 5 games.
Broncos are plus 310 to make the playoffs, and Payton 20-1. And I know it's very yucky, but I don't think that necessarily reconciles. Yeah,
it's true. A playoff appearance is going to be enough for him to get votes, but I would say that the hallmarks of the offense that the Broncos are running right now, which are all Sean Payton, like he's the offensive side of the ball, like they really do not feel sustainable. The horizontal passing game, the negative passing game, backwards passing somehow that Knicks had through the first half against the Jets is going to be tough to kind of continue to win games. So yeah, count me out on that. But I think in order for him to get home, you probably need to win the West. I don't think a wild card spot with 10 wins is going to get it.
Yeah, I think that you can get to win totals with different levels of vibes. And I think that Payton, to win, he would need to be seen as kind of turning or helping Bo Nix become like a serious offensive rookie of the year candidate and not kind of limping to 10 wins on the back of what looks like suddenly a really strong defense in Denver, which is naturally not Payton's side of the ball. I was interested, do you think Tomlin is compelling? He's 14-1 now. What do you think would have to happen for Tomlin to have a seriously strong case?
You need the arc that Justin Fields is on to continue to go up. If Justin Fields' reclamation project is kind of seen as, the kind of crowning achievement of Tomlin this year, and the defense is I think his defense is a lot better than what they showed yesterday against the Colts. For whatever reason, Shane Steichen has no issues coordinating against that defense, but a lot of other teams have issues playing against the Steelers, and I think the Steelers defense is going to end up being top 5. So I think for Tomlin to win, he has to win the North, which means he's going to have to get head-to-head wins against the Ravens and the Bengals, but it's doable. And I think it's going to take 12 wins and probably a top 3 seed in the AFC.
Yep. I think he may even need the 1 seed, maybe the 2 seed, because that defense has a ton of pedigree. I think Tomlin's the type of guy, though, where you kind of need, it's not even as much about the case itself as it is about the content breaking the right way, for it to be seen as a career achievement award of sorts for Mike Tomlin, and it'd be his best director Oscar for The Departed type of situation. I'm going back to the start of the conversation with you with Kevin O'Connell being bet against the plus 200. It's just, and there's no specific reason for it beyond just that, like, we're 4 weeks in, there's 13 weeks left, a lot can happen. Everyone was anointing Matt LaFleur like 3 days ago. Now everyone thinks that he's just completely dead in the market. I think the biggest thing to be cognizant with this market is just how much things change week to week, and guys who seem dead and buried. Like right now, it certainly doesn't feel like the Patriots or the Panthers are going to make the playoffs, but they're both like 8-1 in the market to make the playoffs, at which point like Mayo and Canales would become incredible candidates. It doesn't really feel like those teams are going to make the playoffs, but there is a certain level of probability you have to allocate to that and then compare whether that will that reconciles with their coach of the year prices. I think the key with this is just to like find out or assess the probability of reaching kind of X win total, X milestone in the standings, achieving X in terms of division title, 1 seed, playoff spot, and then just kind of ask yourself, like, how would this feel if this happened? Because if Jerome Mayo makes the playoffs, that's going to feel pretty ridiculous and a massive story. So that kind of stuff. And I think with the long shot guys, you can probably wait to get more of a sample, just given that, Jerome Mayo is probably going to lose again next week. And then all of a sudden it's, pretty much cooked. With Canales as well, you can probably get a greater look in, because people just have this natural bias, I think, to think that, the Panthers definitely aren't going to make the playoffs. The Patriots definitely aren't going to make the playoffs. So I think with this award, you just kind of need to keep an open mind to outlier probabilities.
Can I ask you one other name we haven't brought up?
Sure.
One of the easiest, if not the easiest schedule remaining, belongs to the Atlanta Falcons. They are home against the Bucs this week on Thursday Night Football. They were exceptionally lucky to get the 2 wins that they've gotten this year, particularly the Saints win. But that was massive in terms of equity in the NFC South race. And a win against the Bucs as favorites, I think, kind of makes Morris 30-1 possible. I have been amazingly unimpressed with him as a coach. But that doesn't change the fact that the Falcons winning 13 games are going to be in the discussion, right?
Yeah, maybe. What I would compare it to is think back to the Vikings in 2022 when Kevin O'Connell was first-year coach. They'd gone 8-9, missed the playoffs without Mike Zimmer. And then it was the following year was expected to be not a rebuilding year, but that they would just be kind of a bit of a 500, slightly above 500 type of team. And then they go 13-4. And are in the mix for the 1 seed. And O'Connell just kind of wasn't a candidate because everyone knew that the team was fraudulent. I think that this is going to be the same thing with the Falcons, where it's like, this is why it's difficult to just be like, if this team achieves this amount of wins, thus the coach is this price. And that's a very good starting point. And I do that, but you have to also kind of focus on, what is the story going to be? And I think right now the story on the Falcons is going to be they keep getting away from it. They're not that good. No one takes them seriously as a contender. That can change, obviously, but for the time being, I think that Raheem Morris, if he does become like a 12-win, 13-win division winner, his fate is probably going to be KOC 2022, would be my best guess.
Okay. That seems reasonable. If my sentiment about the Bills is right, and they are a truck, and they win 14 games and get the 1 seed in the AFC, is McDermott in the conversation?
Don't think so, just because Josh Allen steals so much credit, and I think the offense is a heavy favorite to be better than the defense too. I think the main thing with Coach of the Year, one of the other starting points is you have to ask, like, is the quarterback going to steal credit from the coach? Because people think justifiably, to some extent, they struggle to separate the credit between quarterback and coach. And I think the clearest example is Matt LaFleur with Aaron Rodgers in the 2 Rodgers MVP years, where a lot of LaFleur was favorite in the market. And then a lot of voters were on record saying, well, I just couldn't figure out, do I give the credit to Rodgers or do I give it to LaFleur? Whereas Mike Vrabel on the 1 seed with Ryan Tannehill, there was no issue there. So I just think I think that is a little bit of inefficiency, that people are just dismissing these juggernaut truck coaches. But I think the 2 guys who appeal to me there, and one of them might be dead by the time you guys are listening to this, based on Monday night's results. But I think if Dan Campbell or Kyle Shanahan were to get 14 or 15 wins, those would be the 2 guys of that ilk who would be in the discussion, because Jared Goff doesn't steal that much credit. And even though he probably should at this point, Brock Purdy doesn't steal a ton of credit from Shanahan relative to other quarterbacks on teams that typically win 14 or 15 games. The issue with Shanahan, he's already got 2 losses. So he's pretty much, he might already be out of room, out of margin for error. So, but anyway, those would be the 2 kind of types of that coach that I would focus on.
That makes sense to me.
Dominate this NFL season with a Fantasy Life Plus subscription. Get weekly rankings, stat-sit advice, DFS analysis, and betting tools. Use promo code season20 for 20% off. Go to fantasylife.com/rotoworld to learn more.
As you all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up to BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code BETEDGE. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code BETEDGE when you sign up. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code BETEDGE and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.
Okay, let's close out with Offensive Rookie of the Year, as my man Tyler McGill very much flirts with blowing it, as previously potentially forecast. Try and get out of trouble, Tyler. Offensive Rookie of the Year, a man who is not in any trouble whatsoever. So far, at least. Jayden Daniels is minus 150 in the market. Malik Neighbors, who in another year would be running away with this, he's plus 375. Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., both 7-1. That probably ends the list of realistic candidates. So there is one other guy I'll call out. Do you think that anyone is a bet at these current prices?
This is a micro sell high spot for Daniels. The next two games that the Washington Commanders play are against the Browns and the Ravens. Those are good defenses. Daniels has just come off of a stretch where he got to play the 31st and 32nd ranked defenses by my ratings. The only other bottom three defense is his own, and that has helped. It will continue to help him, kind of find game states, I think, throughout the rest of the season where he's going to put up numbers. But it looks to me like stormy waters for him this next couple of weeks. What to do with that information is a little tougher because he's still absolutely electric. And what he's done these last 2 weeks in terms of providing himself, enough of a bank of, equity is notable. But if you ever wanted to take a shot against Daniels, I think today is the day to do it. The guys that you draw a line, Caleb Williams is the obvious question first. Have you seen enough from him? Is, the lucky 2 wins that the Bears have, is that going to be enough for it? If the Bears continue to win as a team because their defense is top 5, will Caleb Williams just in general get QB win credit and be able to close the gap? He's going to need to play a lot better. And the weather's not going to help him in Chicago, certainly. And in general, the schedule is not going to help him. So I think I'm a little cool on Williams, even though he would be the logical bet at 7-1. I think the wide receivers are going to be, it's just going to be so tough to distinguish between them, and then for them to, overcome a QB case. The guy that is drifting that makes no sense to me is Xavier Worthy. There's potential that the Chiefs make a move and bring in a wide receiver, but that's not really kind of their style. I think kind of leaning into more usage for Worthy is logical, and he could ultimately end up being wide receiver 1 for Pat Mahomes for the second half of this year, which would come with some pretty outstanding numbers. So not sure why he's 25-1, and I think that's the only case I could make, at least of the long shots.
Okay. I think the problem with Worthy is just that he doesn't, from what I understand, he doesn't really have the upside in terms of his route tree. At this point, he weighs 165 pounds. Like, it's just difficult for him to be, filling the Rashee Rice type of void. I think he's going to be primarily a deep ball guy, a Deshaun Jackson type of weapon. Of the long shots, the only guy who is compelling to me is Brian Thomas at 50-1, just because one, he's banked 275 receiving yards, multiple touchdowns. He looks like pretty clearly Trevor Lawrence's number 1 weapon. And I do think there is some scope for the Jags to bounce back a little bit, but I think he is well down the pecking order. I think the thing with Caleb is that I don't think that he is going to get by with wins and if the Bears sneak into the playoffs and it's not so much about Daniels, it's more that I think Malik Neighbors has too high of a floor for that to actually win. Malik Neighbors right now is second in the NFL in receiving yards. He has 9 more targets than any other receiver in football. He's averaging 13 targets a game. Next is Nico Collins at 10.8. He's getting insane volume. So I think if you want to be against Daniels, and I think Daniels is by far the most likely player to win, I think that Neighbors at plus 375. I think that is the bet, just because he has a chance to finish like top 3 in the NFL in receiving. And I think he's also fairly resilient against quarterback injury or change, because I'm not sure that Drew Lock or Daniel Jones really matters for him. So I think that Daniels' price is relatively fair, but if I were to make one bet in the market, it would be Neighbors at plus 375. What do you think Neighbors' scope?
Well, I mean, the only thing stopping both Daniels and Neighbors realistically from putting up just one-of-one type rookie seasons is health. Neighbors, I'm a little nervous, and the usage you're pointing out is like undeniable. Like, he is pretty clearly already a top 5 guy in the NFL, which is amazing. But like, young guy like that, getting that kind of usage, playing NFL football, has a tendency to get dinged up. And he got injured preseason, didn't affect his availability for week 1. He got injured in the Cowboys game. Again, it was kind of fluky, but yeah, if you're getting used that aggressively, there is a red flag in my mind as your longevity. And a big stretch of missed time is going to make it tough for him to have more stats than, say, like a Brian Thomas Jr. you mentioned. I would put the same kind of caveats on Daniel's case. Like, he's a very small guy, and he's running a lot. And there will be times where he's up against difficult defenses, takes a shot, gets hit, might miss a couple games, and at that point, minus 150 is going to feel like a very, very wrong price. So I don't love making bets expecting injuries will happen, but I would say that both Daniels and Neighbors to me should be kind of very cautiously treaded on as far as expecting them to give you 17 games of production.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. Neighbors in that Cowboys game, there was a stretch in the second half where it felt like he was getting injured every play, which was a little frightening. And Daniels, about his frame and his style is not necessarily conducive to avoiding health risk. So I agree there. I think there is an element, though, of just taking a step back. And people today, the types of people who vote on this award are talking about Jayden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFC, which is sacrilegious because Brock Purdy is the best quarterback in the NFC. But when you're having those types of discussions, then yeah, you probably warrant being a minus money favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I do think, though, that Neighbors is going to be so good if he's healthy, and my expectation is he will play this coming week and not miss any time because there's the extended 10-day break after the Thursday night game. I think Neighbors is going to be too good that Daniels isn't going to be able to run away and hide just yet. But I would not be shocked if this is, if this is over with 6 weeks to go, if Daniels is going to keep playing the way he is, just because his value that he provides is just so much more at the quarterback position. But Malik Neighbors certainly is right there if Daniels either gets hurt or has a downturn in play because the schedule gets a little bit harder. All right, we are done for today. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. From Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick, we'll see you tomorrow.